Okay, it seems our our screen orientation is a bit different today. Yeah, but we're gonna make it work. So it's a good thing to have you guys here. Thank you for joining at the table of men tonight. We are speaking about becoming a man of purpose. Unfortunately, the screen is looking inverted, but hey, we're gonna make the most of it regardless. So thank you so much, guys. So tonight we're gonna keep it as simple, practical, straightforward. I promised you guys that already, and so we're gonna ensure that we make the most of how we go about this. Maybe by the next time when we're having a different kind of camera, everything will show properly because this thing is inverted. You get so. Maybe I don't know. I could have mirrored it, perhaps. Yeah, I could have mirrored it because this is going to mirror. But hey, let's just go right on. All right. So we're talking about becoming a man of purpose at the table of men tonight, and I must tell you that in my observation of a lot of men, many men are very passionate about providing, about caring for their families, and I mean, that's good. It's in our nature as men to, care for our families, to provide for our families. Howbeit, we generally miss out on life. And maybe again, one of the ways that, a lot of men try to make up for that is by having fun. Yeah, it's good to have fun. It's good to be relaxed. It's good to enjoy life. But how many men truly live intentionally? Because as men, we spend most of our lives working hard to bring money home, to give our loved ones the best possible life that they could have. But we forget to live. Lest I forget. Hope you have your glass. Yeah. It's always good to have something to drink at the table of men. Your favorite drink, whatever it is, if it's water, I generally recommend water, right? So if it's water, if it's some bottled drink you like, some soda or whatever, it's a good thing. Enjoy it, okay? But please ensure you have something to drink at the table of men. So we're all going to be having fun and speaking here. It's not just a one-sided way, okay? So a lot of us forget to live. We literally forget that life is not all about earning and providing and raising kids. It's not all about that. We have lives to live, and while we agree that it is a part of our makeup to make sacrifices for the ones that we love, ensuring that they have the best possible lives. They have living conditions that our own parents couldn't give us. It is still very important that we must never forget that we need to live. We need to live life intentionally. We have to live life intentionally. Very, very intentionally. We have to be very intentional about living. So the questions that we have before us today really is, how do we live life intentionally while providing and caring for our family and loved ones? That's the big question here. How do we live life? How do we live purposefully while providing for our loved ones and family members? And this is the big question that we have before us. So let us first of all speak about the tussle or the dilemma between purpose and pressure. A lot of men are drawn or torn. Yes, a lot of men are torn between two extremes. Purpose on one extreme, pressure on the other extreme. And so the extreme of pressure is, the need and the desire to provide, to create living conditions, to pay bills, and all of those things that are connected with it. We want to, take our families out on all expenses paid trips. We want to get the best clothes. We want to get the best cars. We want to live in the best homes with our families. We want to send our children to the best schools. We want security for our kids. We want to secure their futures. We want to invest, and ensure that we have no money worries. Everything. We want to make sure that everything, we are under pressure, constant pressure to see to it that we create the best possible lives for our loved ones. But on the flip side, the other extreme is purpose. We crave fulfillment. Guys, a lot of men are living unfulfilled lives and they can't say it out. But a lot of us rationalize it on the grounds that, as long as I'm making money, there's no need to, kill myself, to bend over backwards for, purpose. So the deal for us here is we must find a way to balance, we must find a balance between the two extremes of purpose and pressure. While we are, seeking to earn much more, to create, the best living conditions, to give our children the opportunities we didn't have, we also must find, and this intentionally, we must find a way to live purposefully. Guys, we cannot, and you see, I've spoken with a few men in their elderly years, and I've observed many others. One of the things that I have seen is that a lot of men who, grow gray hairs, and I mean gray hairs, like gray hairs of age, a lot of them live with one regret. They did not live purposefully in the moments when they should have. Now they are old. They don't have the strength to pursue those dreams that they would have, wanted to pursue some 30, 40 years ago. They didn't have, now they cannot take those risks that they would have wanted to take, some 20, 30 years ago. Because by now, it is too difficult to take those risks. It is too risky to take those risks. Let me give you an example. As a 24, 25-year-old, you could start a business, in a sector that you don't even have the skills, but you just feel like, okay, I can try this out, I could succeed in it. And so you go all out for it. You invest little money that you have, you look for clients, you try to sell, you try to bootstrap and all those things. And then, if it fails, you move on. If it succeeds, yeah, you're fine. You progress. But a 65-year-old does not have that luxury of energy and time and money to gamble the days away. At that level, they are all about security, they're all about certainty, they're all about assurance. They're more conservative. Overly conservative at that stage of life. And so they're not trying to try something out. They're not even, they're not trying to, if you take this to the level of relationships, they're not trying to date anybody. If they're speaking to anyone, they're speaking, for certainty. They're looking for certainty. They don't have that drama. They don't have the time for drama. They don't have the luxury of all of those things. And so, as men, while you are young, or while you are in your younger years, this is the time that you have to actually live life, to discover purpose for yourself. What is that overarching reason why you should stay alive another day? Something that transcends you, something beyond yourself. Why? What are those things that are allowing you to live another day beyond providing for your loved ones and your family? What are those things? What are those things? So, this leads us to the part of aligning our values to our life goals. As men, we have lofty goals, we have lofty dreams. I'm sure many of us want to be wealthy, yeah? Many of us want to have dream homes. Many of us want to send our children to certain standard of schools. Many of us want our children to attend Ivy League schools, at the highest education level. Many of us want to, tour the world. We want to fly around the world. Many of us want to take our children and our families around the world. We want to tour the world with them. Many of us have dreams of what we want our wives, our spouses to do, to be, to achieve. There are many of those things. Beautiful. Those are life goals that we have. Perhaps some of us have even started thinking about life after death, especially for our children. And one day at the table of men here, we're going to talk about life after death. How a man prepares for life after death, be after him. We're going to talk about that. But now that we have identified the goals that we have as men, the big question now is, how do we align our values with those goals? Because in the absence of alignment between our values and our goals, we will not be able to actually and truly live life the way we ought. So, let's take it from one side, your values. What are your values? What values do you have? What are the values? What are the things that matter the most to you? And by values, I'm not just talking about, the usual, integrity, what have you. No. I'm talking about values in the sense of what is most important to you. Yes, what is most important to you? What is that thing that governs how you live life, how you think about things, how you approach decision making? What are those what's that word? What are those indelible factors? Those factors that cannot be overridden when you have to make a decision, or when you have to take a purposeful, meaningful look at anything. What are those things that will underline the way you are going to approach that thing, that will underline how you are going to make decisions about that thing? Because your values are usually not many. Most times they're like 3 maximum, or 4 at the most. I mean, for me, for one of my core values is excellence. I'm always telling my son, I was telling him earlier today, when you are writing 5, you should write 5 excellently. Write it the way it should be written. Don't just write it shabbily. Put your things in order. And I was so impressed returning from the office yesterday and realizing that my son had actually arranged his room. He arranged his wardrobe. Like, he literally moved his wardrobe from one side of the wardrobe, his things from one side of the wardrobe to the other side. Laid it with paper, laid it with an underlay, and then arranged his clothes one by one, set everything by himself. Excellently. That is excellent. That is a value that I stand for. That's a value that I place premium on. And it governs how I live my life, how I do my work, how I go about all that I do. You realize that at the table of men, we keep trying to improve every week. Every week, we keep trying to improve the outlook. I mean, at some point, you're probably not going to be seeing all of these draft materials that we have. We're going to be stepping it up because we want to start bringing guests to the show, right? So, to have that, we can't use YouTube Live directly like this. We're going to have to, have a streaming platform where we can have guests. We can have as many guests as possible, and everything's going to be awesome. Except, of course, because again, we cannot also have all our guests physically present. So we need to have, a way to admit guests from wherever they are around the world. I mean, so excellence. But you need to ask yourself as a man, what are your values, your intrinsic values, the values that you can, that you cannot divide, you cannot alienate. They are a part and parcel of you. They govern your mindset. Like the way you think is governed by these values. Now, when you identify these values, excellence, maybe curiosity, intelligence, well, I will put curiosity and intelligence together. Curiosity necessitates, or intelligence necessitates curiosity, and curiosity leads to intelligence, right? So when you're curious about something, you ask questions. When you ask questions, you find answers. The finding of those answers gives you intelligence. For example, should I say this? I was speaking with my wife and I was asking a question that that defies or will I say that challenges the norm, what we have always thought about. And what was my question? What exactly is wrong in cousins getting betrothed? What's wrong? Like, what exactly is the problem with that? You know, a cousin and a cousin getting together and building a family. What's wrong with that? I'm not just saying I want to do that. I mean, I'm not even going to do that. I can't do that. I'm already married, you know. But, like, what exactly is the problem with it? I want to understand what the problem with it is. What exactly is the problem? So, these are deep questions to ask. And it is born out of curiosity. Getting an answer to that increases intelligence. So I say curiosity and intelligence go together. So my point here is you must identify the values that matter the most to you. When you identify those values, your next point of call is to align your values with your goals. Now that you know what your values are, what are your life goals? You know your life goals. You know your life goals. Can you put your values together with your life goals and ensure that they are in alignment, they are together? Because it is in the alignment of your values and your life goals that you will actually be able to find a way to live purposefully. A lot of men are pursuing goals without the values. Others are pursuing the values without goals. You see, the man that will live purposefully and a fulfilling life is the one that will pursue his life goals with his values aligned. So a lot of us need to do a better job of aligning our values with our goals. And that is the job that we have as men. That is the job that we have to do. Until we're able to do this, we will not be able to live intentionally. So what is living intentionally? I mean, because to live purposefully is to live intentionally. To live intentionally is to actually have your life, you know, I don't want to use the word scripted, but I would say to have your life calculated. Some years ago, I put together a 25 years plan for myself and my family. So I looked at that, I think the year was 2024 or 2023, and then, or I think 2023, 2022, thereabouts. And I said, okay, 25 years down the line, what year will it be? It will be 2037. Good. Where do I want to be as a person by 2037? I identified that. That's where the life goals are coming in. Where do I see my family being? At the time, my son was 2 years old. Okay, in 25 years' time, the young man will be 27 because he's 2. He was 2 at the time. So if he's going to be 27, where do I see him being? Noted that down. Where do I see my wife being at 27 in 25 years' time? How old would she be at the time? I noted that. And so, knowing that we will be 25 years older by that time, I started to plot where we will be in 25 years' time. Then, I started to backtrack from there all the way to the present. That, okay, if we start taking the journey backwards, where should we be at certain points along the journey to ensure that we would be at that place that I have projected 25 years from now. So, aside from 2037, I identified what should be 2037. I took 5 years backward. Okay, 5 years before 2037, which will be 2032. Where should we be? What should we be doing? What should we have done? On the journey. Currently talking about that, by that time we should have been accomplishing. Start to list those things out, as goals. And then I did all the way till I got back to 2022, where we were at the time. Then this is where the values come in. Intentionally. So, based on my values, or on the values that we have enshrined as a family, how should we live our lives each day? What are the peculiar and important things that should define our lives at that stage on the journey, each of those years, 2023, 2024, 2025, 26, 27, all the way down to 2037. What should define our lives? What should define the way we approach our lives? What are the things that we should be doing? Can I tell you something? We know the scholarships that we want to embark on along the path. We know the arrangement, how those scholarships should be. We know that we should have a trust, and the trust is supposed to function in a certain way. The functioning of that trust is designed. I'm talking about intentional living. I said earlier that at the table of men here, we will be talking about life after death, right? Fantastic. That conversation is born out of purposeful living. A lot of men do not have any idea whatsoever how life must be when they pass away. And this is part of purposeful living. Because when you live intentionally, you also take care of the days after your life, the days to come after you. As a man, you cannot afford to live only for the days that you can see. You also plan for the days that you cannot see and will not see. That is what great men do. That's what great men do. I look at the man Abraham, and I realize that Abraham actually had insight into what would happen to his descendants several years down the line. About 400 years down the line. He knew that his descendants would be slaves in a foreign land, and they would be slaves for 400 years. He knew. He knew that after 400 years, they would leave that place with great wealth, and they would, they were back on a 40 years journey, to a land of promise, to a place that they had been promised. And because Abraham had received, the promise of a land, a promised land. We all know about, the promised land. So, he had seen it that it would take another 440 years at least for his children, his descendants, to take possession of that promise that he had received. That is a man on a mission, a man of purpose. He knew that, okay, this promise will not come to pass in my existence. Even though he saw the promise, he knew where that land was. And so it was relatively easy for him to communicate these things, these values, to his children, Isaac, and to his children's children, his grandchildren, Jacob and Esau. When I actually studied, that genealogy, I realized that Abraham was still alive to see and to spend time with his grandchildren, Jacob and Esau. And he definitely must have told them a lot about the visions that he had, about the promises that he had, right? And those words from their father, from their grandfather, would have shaped the thinking of these guys such that they are also passing the same thing to their own children. My goodness. So I'm realizing that much of what we know about the Jews today was a function of a man who actually lived intentionally, purposefully. He knew what was coming. He knew how long it would take. I mean, to me, it sounds like somebody making a 450 years plan for his descendants. Knowing that, okay, this was going to happen, this is going to happen, but how will this identity be preserved? How, despite the slavery and all of those things, how would the identity of these people be preserved? He had to create that early on. How would the values, that have shaped his life, shape the lives of his descendants for 440 years or 450 years ahead of him? He was not going to see those days. At the most, he was going to see maybe 40-something years. Just 40-something years. And after 40-something years, that will be it. But he needed to plan for another 10x of those years, another 400 years plus ahead of him. That is how men live purposefully. And this is why, again, if you are 40 and above, you must pay attention to writing a will. Men, the most valuable assets you have not only be land and buildings. I was speaking with a man recently, and I told him that, sir, you need to write books. The ideology that a lot of us have as men is that, oh, if I'm writing a book, it must be for commercial purpose. No, it doesn't have to be. You should write books for your descendants, for your children's children to read. How do you influence the thinking, the perception of your children's children or your great-grandchildren or the children after them if you are not writing books that they can read or letters that they can read as being from their ancestor, from their great-grandfather? How? You cannot shape their thinking, you cannot shape their culture, their values, if you don't leave things that they can hold on to. I mean, recording videos of you and creating an archive of those videos, hosting them in a place, a family vault that your children after them, your great-grandchildren can have access to, listen and watch recordings of you address specific topics in line with the future that you have seen. This is what intentional living is all about, my brothers. See, it's not all about, plan for the rainy days, when I'm 65. There's that part, but that is the micro level of it. I'm talking about planning for the years ahead of you and the years that you will not see, and the things that you must do as a man ahead of those times. Your family should have a vault, a vault that contains assets of immeasurable value. If you can put diamonds in there, beautiful. If you can put gold in there, platinum and what have you, rubies, fantastic. But what I would have you have more in there are value shaping resources. Videos from you, books, letters from you, journals from you that you wrote on, and then your children's children can read those things, can see those things, and they can make reference to those things. Possibly a museum many years after you. Living intentionally is not easy, and that's why I said there is an extreme of purpose, there is an extreme of pressure. For you as a man, you need to be able to find a balance between both in such a way that you do not lose sight of purpose while attending to the pressures. You get that? So, the question I'm going to leave with you as we round off at the table of men today. 2 questions. The first question is, what gives life meaning? For you, what gives life meaning? What is it that makes life meaningful? You need to be able to answer that question. The answer you find to that question is going to significantly impact how you go about the next 5 years, the next 10 years, the next 15, 20, 30, 50, and 100 years, perhaps. If you are 40 today, are you going to be able to live another 50 billion? Significantly influence the next 250 years. Those are the kind of conversations that men need to start having. Those are the kind of details you need to start discussing with your spouse. Those are the kind of conversations that you need to bring up. Perhaps, maybe with your confidant, your closest confidant as a friend, a man that you trust. With your children, if you have children who are already growing up, start having with them. As a man, you have a responsibility. I almost forgot my glass. You have a responsibility to ensure that posterity, the years after you, after your lifetime, are taken care of. They are predictable. That's what I spoke about, living a life that is calculated. Because you have seen it, you have prepared for it. It may not turn out 100% as you have, but you would have shaped it in immeasurable ways. You would have shaped generations. Look at Abraham Lincoln, the Lincoln family. Look at the Rockefeller family. You see, there's something about how John D. Rockefeller designed his family. There's something about how he designed his family. Years later, he's long gone, but his family still lives according to a legacy that he created and left behind. And that's how I want you men to think. Please, it's too myopic for you to spend an entire lifetime paying bills, and that's all that you do with life. Why? It's myopic. It's a waste. If all you spend your entire life doing is paying bills and, in quotes, entertaining yourself and enjoying life, too myopic. When you have the opportunity to shape the next 500 years of life ahead of you, after you, you can shape the next 10 generations. God is a God of generations. He's a God of times and seasons. And if we are made in God's image, we cannot afford to think of just now. Think about thousands of years ahead. A lot of us are not even thinking about 10, 15, 20 years ahead. How can we think of 200 years, 500 years, or even thousands of years ahead? How do we? So you look at scenarios in the Bible, for example, and then you see how for thousands of years before the birth of Jesus, God had been speaking about him. That's what great men do. You look ahead, you think ahead, and then you project into the future, thousands of years ahead, and then you are already shaping what is coming. That's how to live purposefully and intentionally. My second and final question: where do you feel societal pressure the most? If you identify where the pressure is coming from the most, you can deal with it purposefully. And if you deal with it purposefully, you can ignite your value system into the scheme of things. At the end of the day, the crux of all of this is for us to live purposeful lives, to become men of purpose. And becoming a man of purpose is living beyond yourself. Help people around you, but remember, your primary responsibility is to your family, your descendants, to shape your ancestry. Is it? To shape your posterity, shape the lives of your posterity thousands of years down the line. If you're not able to do up to 1,000 years, can you at least push for 200 years down the line? You will not live to see 200 years, right? But you can shape it. You can shape it by the values you introduce, you enshrine, the legacy you leave behind, what you train your children with, what you imbibe into your children, and they carry on and pour into their own children. Shape the future. Shape the next 200 years after you. I'm putting a challenge to you guys. The next 200 years after you should be shaped by you. Begin to create a repository of letters to your children, videos to your children. I mean, all these table of men conversations that we're having, do you think they're going to end here? No. These are, for me, these are conversations to my children. 30 minutes. They will see when their father was 40, when their ancestor was 40 and was talking about these things. Many years down the line, they will see it. 200 years down the line, they will see these videos. They will be able to, access them and watch them and take instruction. Because if I spoke about these things 200 years ago, I mean, why would they not attend to these matters 200 years down the line for the next 200 years after them? That's how we shape the future. That's how we shape the future. On that note, we call it a wrap. Thank you, everyone who joined in. Unfortunately, I did not read your comments. I could not read your comments. Let's see if I can capture any of your comments from tonight. Any comments? Okay, since I cannot capture the comments. Okay, but then we carry this conversation going in the comment section. Please share with us, just as we've spoken, what gives life meaning? What gives life meaning? Very, very important to know what gives life meaning. Let's know in the comment section what gives life meaning to you. And then, of course, where do you feel societal pressure the most? When you let, these things are the things that we're going to keep on, with the conversation in the comment section. I want to hear from you all. Thank you, everyone who has joined in tonight. It's always a beautiful thing and a privilege to join you at the table of men. Let's keep this conversation going in your personal circles, in your private circles, with your friends, and wherever. And as well, please share this video with friends, with associations, with loved ones, with colleagues. Share it far and wide. I'm sure that the things that we have shared together tonight will be beneficial, be useful for some men in your circle. Thank you, guys. Have a very, 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 very pleasant experience this weekend. Cheers to you. Bye-bye.